One of the critical things that we're trying to achieve is to make sure that whatever whisky you select gives you the right aroma, the right flavour and the right texture, and also the right colour that you're looking for. Your sense of smell and your sense of taste go together to tell you whether you're going to like or dislike something. For this programme, it's all about creating, capturing and concentrating the flavour that you want in your spirit before we make the choice in the cask to mature the spirit in. So the critical thing is the raw material choices. What do we want to use for our malted barleys, our yeasts, etc. So talking about malted barley, we can use distiller's malt, we can use peated malts for a smoky character, or we can draw inspiration from the craft brewing industry and use specialty malts that might have been roasted, toasted, heated a different way, and each of these choices can influence the flavour in your spirit. The next raw material choice that we take is the yeast that we want to use to ferment these sugars from the malted barley that we've identified to give us the flavours that we want during fermentation. And what happens is we make an unhopped beer. It ferments for maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 days, and then at the end of that we've got the flavour that we want, we've created the flavour, we then push that forward into the stills for the next part of the process.
All the way through from the grain and yeast that we're using. We can also change the parameters during our production, so the mashing, the fermentation can change as well, so we can have very long fermentations, up to 5 days. 120 hours of fermentation will give a very different spirit character compared to a short fermentation, which would only be 2 days. And into our distillation as well. The way we drive our stills, the way we run them, whether we do it very quickly and boil the spirit quickly, or whether we do it slow and gently, will give a different character. The heart of the run is very important as well, so when we're doing our distillation run, we take a heart cut, which then goes on to become spirit at the end. And in our distillery, it's usually very small, only around 15% of the entire spirit goes into the heart. We can vary how we take the cut points, whether we want something fruity or something more oily and more robust, depending on the different cut points that we take. We can also do triple distillation as well, which will give more purified and concentrated and quite a sweet character to the spirit.
Like some of the decisions we made about the raw materials, the different malted barleys, the yeast, the length of time for fermentation, how we actually capture the spirit during distilling, we can now move on to what some people find is the most interesting part, the wood that we want to mature the spirit in. So we can firstly consider the oak. Where does the oak come from? What is the species of oak? Because these can influence the flavour of the spirit. And then we also consider the size of the cask. Is it a barrel? Is it a hogshead? Is it a butt? Is it a barrique? And also we can look at the different types of liquids that the cask has previously held. Are these bourbons? Are they sherries? Are they ports? Are they wines? Are they Madeiras? All of these different things can influence the type of spirit that we will create for you. And then the one remaining factor is how long do you expect to mature your spirit? Do you want to bottle it after 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15, 18? All these kind of things need to be part of the mix so that we can advise you and suggest to you what's the right type of oak cask and the length of time for maturation. So what we'll do next is a kind of flavour experience where we'll look at 3 different new make spirits. And usually at Holyrood we've got 3 different styles. So we've got a kind of sweet style, a fruity style and a smoky style. So not every new make spirit is the same. And then we go into 5 different whiskies, not our own whiskies, we're a new distillery. So these are illustrative examples of what we think we can create should you be interested in these type of flavours. A couple of special surprise samples that we'll give you at the end. So hopefully when you've been through all of this, we can work with you to find a flavour that you're going to enjoy the most. Welcome to the warehouse. This is obviously where we fill your spirit into the cask. We take the spirit that we've distilled at the distillery, we reduce it to the strength that we think is appropriate to create the flavour that you want. We then select the wood that we think is perfect, whether it's a sherry butt like this, whether it's an American oak sherry, Spanish oak sherry, wine barriques, bourbon barrels, Japanese oak, whatever we think is appropriate. We fill the spirit into the cask, put the bung in, and then roll the cask into the bonded warehouse for a period of maturation. That could be 5, 10, 15, 20 years, depending on what you're trying to achieve. The beauty of having the warehouse so close to the distillery is we can pop out regularly to, with your permission, sample your cask. We would recommend probably sampling it once in its first year, and then depending on how it's progressing, maybe every year thereafter. If you can't join us in person, of course I'd be delighted to sample your cask and send you little notes, maybe send a little sample. And the other thing we'd love to do is when you think the cask is ready to be bottled, you might not want all 300, 400, 500, 600 bottles, so we could part bottle your cask after 5 years and then do the balance after 8, 9, 10, 15 years, for example.